One thumbs up already. Manners respect people. How you guys doing? I'm good. I put out 2 tomato plant today just to test the weather to see what I go on. See if nothing. If they get frostbite overnight and but tomato plant tough, because the tomato I leave them outside in a December and I pick not quite a few, but I pick a few tomato in a December same way. So them tough. I mean just I put out a couple and I see how them I do cause them sick and tired of me I talk to them on them space and them face. All the tomato plant them say, yo, we're sick and tired of this. Let's move on to something like some sunshine and some growth and some betterment. Right, people. All right, and I know say one of the things that I'm doing or establishing is the fact that there's so much different avenues out there or different um attention things people can focus on. And when we want to focus on it again, it's gonna be in the news, but it's not gonna be top trending and stuff like that because the difference between understanding and trending is just you want to get a fix and then you move on. Understanding is learning and trying to navigate your way through certain situation in a life. And how you navigate through life, trust me, there's no sensationalism about how you navigate. Because and all the time camera go there for catch situation for highlight it and tap up the screen and tap up the screen. Right? That's one of the things when I say more create my channel for understanding, unity, love, respect, and all of them things that it's possible and practicable. That's something you can practice, right? Unity is something you can practice. Love is something you can practice. Respect is something you can practice. Nobody has to practice it for you, right? If you take it upon yourself to learn, educate yourself, that can't stop, right? How much you learn, how much you educate yourself, that can't stop. Because myself, from the start do this, it's so refreshing to find so much great story, to talk about so much different things, to open up your mind and say, wow, we are part of greatness, right? We are part of greatness. We are greatness. So everything when I got you on understanding things here, right? In the beginning, we did have community, we did have family, we did have unity, we did have love, and in every situation and every time, right? There was one and two individual will go against how things is supposed to be for us, right? But and then we have like the outside forces trying to break us up, right? All of them things that we don't aware of, people. But right through history, there's always great people. We always been great. We always put in disadvantaged position and still come out victorious. So one of the things I say, it's if we cut out part of we, that's like cutting off the right hand and just I use the left one. I'm fine with that because I'm left-handed. But if we balance it and work it out in a balanced way, it'll work for we, you know. And like I said, if we cut out certain word out of our vocabulary, cut out hate and right through history, right? We never promote hate. We always promote unity. We always promote the things them where higher beings always gravitate to. And that's the next thing. Higher beings don't come in a one color. So today, people, we want to talk about this thing here. So I say every day we come, we want to educate, we want to learn more, we want to understand more. So we can set a better example for the next generation. Instead of saying this generation is the last generation. You don't know come up with certain things, you know, or how we make these things become part of our vocabulary or part of our thinking. It's like, oh yeah, garbage over there, so let's bring it over here, so I'll make it part of we. It's still garbage, but we're gonna make it part of we. And then we're gonna call it, oh yeah, it's our culture. It's still garbage. No matter what you call it, a garbage. So this is today's lesson is I never knew TV. I'm tell you sometime I go through all of them information here and go open up all of these books. I'm just gonna, bring people along who open other books too so we can understand. Right? So I said that this guy's channel, I never knew TV, him always have some good reasoning, some amazing people him bring on him channel, and he make them talk and have them time for reason out themselves. So this today, it's married people share proven ways to find a good spouse and make your marriage work. Now people me tell you say the beginning, we used to be a couple. Like we used to be, we have more marriage, we have more unity, we had more family. All of them things here from me, I go through them things and I find out say it's declined. Like the marriage between us has fallen tremendously, right? And I saw it end up with a single home. All of them things it's when you look upon everything and see it, it's all connected. It's all connected, but we are not connected. That's one of the things, we are not connected. We just live among each other. Barely talk to each other, barely get along with each other, practice hate against each other. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's rough. So this is why I'm saying I pick this chapter because you see, them people, yeah, these people can talk to us about certain things. And if them go through it, right, and them have the time to explain what them experience, we should take the time to listen to these people. And that me tell you say no, the ability to listen, it's not there anymore. People don't listen. People just want to argue or just get them point across so them don't hear the full story. And this is how them have a TikTok mind. But all of these things is for a purpose. That's why myself the counteraction is me highlighting these people. There I said it. Me highlighting these people, right? And showing keep on showing our greatness, keep on encouraging us. So if you believe that this is how we're supposed to be, like-minded people, you get the next line, like-minded person on the two on the start talk. And then we get the next one. So anytime we don't have enough like-minded people, we can start on a group and start talk about like-minded stuff. And that's how it going to change. If you're a grandson or a granddaughter, and them people that around want to hear on talk and them things there, right? It will change. It will change it. Don't think so. The greaser and the wheel are going to grease up overnight and start run smooth on the highway when they were built yet. Because first of all, it's the hardest thing is for people start something. Not even maintain it, but we start it. Them say, this and that and that, and just the excuse not to start it. But because me did start all of this before, me know when me did a focus on then, this is why I say I can focus on this now. So these are people, them are talk about marriage and it's like a conference. And that me telling you, say, these are the things where we used to do before. We used to have the community conferences, community gathering and all of them things there. But them things there, it's because the respect is not there anymore. For some people get together and talk about reasoning, bring in some young kids, and the young kids them patient enough to listen and learn. And us, them times are old times, them things are no matter now. So as we proceed,
Before you get into a relationship, the guests are going to speak about the importance of knowing yourself and having a purpose before you commit to a long-term relationship. We're going to speak about identifying and accepting the red flags we see in people. A lot of times we're in denial when we see stuff, especially when the loving is good. And so we're going to touch on that. And the last part is getting through the post honeymoon phase. You know, you get married, everything's on what do they call it, cloud nine? Cloud nine? Yeah, you're on cloud nine. Then when you drop, how do we get through that and maintain our relationships moving forward? All right. So I
and yeah, and that's what I talk about. Anytime you got a party and you book up, when you meet a woman or a woman meet a man, uno under uno juice and uno under uno liquor, uno weed or whatever, right? And then uno get together, that's cloud nine. But then the next day when the pit the barn and everything now, what kind of cloud that to the depot after the baby born? As we proceed, people.
how do we get through that and maintain our relationships moving forward? All right. So I recommend you take out your notebooks for this one because you have these three brilliant people here.
Okay, and that I keep on telling people must always have a book. And take up my one and open it up to a blank page. I'm telling you, say this is school. And time in a school, you guys have to be in class, but you not always have class, no matter where you go. So as we proceed,
So the first question I have here, or topic I want to discuss is self-development before seeking to enter a long-term relationship, right? And I want to start with you, Dr. Dot. Why is it so important to understand oneself and address personal traumas before looking to enter a long-term relationship?
Yeah, I talked about that in my session for those who were here. Yeah, it's just essential. I think you answered the question in asking the question. So, absolutely. If you don't heal your own wounds, if you don't learn how to bind them, if you don't, first of all, before you get that, you have to know yourself first. I spoke a lot about that. You have to know who you are, where you stand, where, the boundaries between where you begin and the other person ends. Because if you don't work on yourself, you will drag all of that trauma and drama and baggage into that relationship or situationship. It's inevitable. So, absolutely, you have to work on yourself first. And I talked about it being such a challenge. There's a lot of inner work that needs to be done. And oftentimes, what we do is we run from it. And I invited people this morning to sit with yourself and to sit still and to get to know yourself and acknowledging that when you sit still is when the demons show up. When everything you've been hiding and running from and repressing and suppressing all of your life, it comes to the surface, and what you want to do is run. But you must stand, you must stake, because you're worthy of it. You are worth knowing yourself, and you are worth healing so that you can bring your whole self to the relationship. I also mentioned that comfort and growth cannot coexist. It's impossible. So you're going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to tell you it's an easy process, but you are worth it. You are worth it. So, in order for you to connect with a brother or a sister, you have to first have a relationship with yourself and be okay with that. Love who you are, all of your limitations, and your beauty as well.
And before we get to you, Lawrence, I want to talk extra Ross, right? That's the Josh Much Classy. I once heard you suggest men identify and focus on their purpose before looking to enter a long-term relationship. Would you elaborate on that one, please?
Yes, first and foremost, let me greet you all in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Selassie the First, and His chosen Queen Empress was Zero Menon. It's an honor to be here. I'm going to discipline myself and keep within the time restraints. But in terms of purpose, one of the things that I have been instructing young brethren who come is that everything starts with purpose. And how I define purpose is that purpose is attached to service. First of all, ask yourself, who do you serve? You have to be a higher power. We go into the seek ye first the kingdom of the Almighty, and all things shall be added. So, as a brethren, and I'm talking to the brothers now, we have been called to lead our families. How can you lead if you are not grounded, if you're not connected to source, if you're not connected to the Most High, however you may manifest that journey? That is your number one focus goal in your early 20s, and even before that. But when you're looking to enter into relationship and build a marriage, to build your kingdom as a king, look for that queen. It starts with purpose. And I have something I call purpose over pum pum. Excuse my French. Okay? Why we say that? Because when you're a young man, you will roam the streets at night looking for this elusive pum pum that you have been called biologically to connect with. And this becomes the main focus of most young men's pursuit. You're at the club, you're not.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, say that the music, the music, that me I think, but me no know no other music where just glorify sex so much, like any other culture. Me no know if them talk it in a French or something like that, but we just stress that more than anything else. It just becomes a culture. Like me tell you, we pick up anything and call it the culture, and it becomes a culture just because we say culture. As we proceed, people.
Comes the main focus of most young men's pursuit. You're at the club, you're not looking for a lady, you're thinking about the feeling that pum pum is going to give you.
Under the liquor, under the soul, as you can see, people. You not look for no marriage, you not look for no. So everything is just set. It's just formulated, right, and set a certain way for us to follow. And the way we are follow, right, it sounds so good. They make it sound so good. All of them things that, but when you look on it, when you have a family, right, you have so much more than just a run street, right? You have stability. You have people will love you and will care for you. That's what family is all about. And I say family is not just the blood. It's not just because we're related, we're family. That's blood relations. That's why I'm say all of them things that we don't say these things separately. We just accept everything. Because sometimes me tell you, say, if a stranger love you and treat you better than your family, what you gonna say? They're not your family. So some things we have it set in our mind in a stone so we can't think. We just have to accept what them teach it. As we proceed, people.
a lady, you're thinking about the feeling that pum pum is gonna give you, right? So we just have to do it from a thing to say that if you have a purpose and if you are connected to that service to the Most High, you are going to now have a better metric on which to vet, because some pum pum is not good for you, right? And let me cut it right there, because I can't go deep, you know. But I drop the mic.
Carrot versus marketplace.
That's true, people. I'm telling you, say sometimes one of the things that I get out of trouble, I get in a trouble. I'm telling you straight. And when you're young and people tell the same time, man get together and man start talk to man, it becomes a conquest thing. It's just no discipline. That's one of the things I tell you, say in a fluid culture, no discipline. As we proceed, people.
Let me cut it right there, because I can't go deep, you know. But I drop the mic. I want to stay disciplined here. All right. So right out of hand, fight. Right out of hand. Of course. I wanted to ask, in regards to the development of self before we get into a long-term relationship, could you touch on that too, please?
Yeah, definitely will. Good afternoon, family. We in Philly. Good afternoon, family. It is a great honor to be here, and I'm thankful to be amongst these amazing leaders. I've traveled the world. I've counseled and married nearly 200 couples. I have stewarded a community of 50,000 young adults who break bread every other month around the world. This question of purpose rings no matter what part of the world that you're in. But I think the purpose, let's define it. Purpose is the reason a thing exists, the why behind what you're doing. But typically in the West, when you talk about purpose, it's tied to career. What that already establishes is that purpose is separate and distinct from your relationship and your family. So that you hear people say, I got married and I lost my purpose. As though your marriage, your relationship, you as a husband, you as a wife, you as a mother, you as a father, has nothing to do with your purpose. And so I think two of the things that I think about when it comes to purpose and establishing your purpose is understand the reason you exist and then the purpose of marriage. And if you ask, how many people in this room are married, make some noise? Yeah. Well, that's a cricket ministry. I think we got a high five and a half.
That's why they're here.
But here's a big question. How many brothers and sisters are pursuing marriage? Make some noise. It's about 37%, right?
And that's pretty much what our average marriage rate is today. And remember, full marriage rate used to be 70% in the 60s, the 50s and the 60s. Like pretty much all of them people grew up in a family structure. Like all of the people that we do all the last month, most of them grew up with a mother and a father, or the father or the mother pass off. Pretty much that's right through history. I'm say when the professor talk about it, right? Him say it started in the 80s when it start decline, when the rap music and the lady says when independent woman came in. So it's serious. It's serious. No marriage, no community. No marriage, no family, no community. Them things that right there. So as we proceed, people.
It's about 37%, right? Your purpose, I'm a minister of the gospel. My purpose is to glorify God. And so I recognize that my purpose is to serve and to serve all of humanity. The purpose of marriage You're going to get multiple different answers. And what marriage is not relationship graduation. It's not boyfriend, girlfriend graduation. It's not social media validation. I could put these white bridal photos out. People know that I made it. Or third, it is not your deliverance to become happy. Marriage is not meant to make you happy, it's meant to make you holy. That you will be set apart to become the person that God has designed you to become, and set apart to do all the things that he's called you to do, that you would look more like him. If that is the case, number one, marriages wouldn't end because people stop being happy. So again, when it comes to this purpose, I try to be very careful, I'll close here, around this notion of purpose. I think it is important for a man to understand the end and the purpose of marriage and what his goal is in that marriage, and be able to articulate what his goal is in that marriage. But if the idea is that I have my whole life together before I get married, part of the reason why there's so many single sisters, and I'll speak from this standpoint, part of it is because of our brothers believe that we need to have everything in order before we find them. So the longer that you continue to believe that delusion, the longer they're uncovered, the longer they're out there, the longer the heartbreak. And so this idea that you have to have yourself together, I am 40 years old, I went to Harvard, I went to Stanford, I went to Texas, I went to all the greatest places, made all the money in the world, all that stuff. I have not met a man at 40, 42, 43 who felt content with where he's at. And so I think this notion is that you're clear on the purpose of marriage. You've heard whether God has even allowed you or he's prescribed that you should marry this woman. And then if that's the case, God has equipped you to be the husband that he's called you to be. And so I think we have to understand what the purpose of us is and the purpose of marriage is. And ultimately don't believe that you have to have everything in order for you to pursue a woman and build with her for the glory of God.
Serious thing. And could everyone in here raise your hand if you know what a red flag is, so we don't have to define it? Everyone in here knows what a red flag is, right? I just want to make sure if we move to the next one. So
people, I'm gonna come back to this. How comes on go one flag we use all the time? We only use red flag, people. Okay, fine. So we use white flag for surrender, right? You know, with vocabulary, we actually use white flag for surrender. But how much times do we surrender, right? So I'm saying, how comes we end up I use red flag so much? Huh? Why can't we use our next color flag? Why it just have to be red flag? As we proceed, people.
So
like, I'm Malcolm X. I'm the red flag.
we're gonna talk about red flags, right? Dr. Dot, I just want to ask first one here. What are some of the red flags we should be looking for during the early stages of the courtship to prevent future conflicts and heartache?
How much time do we have?
Not a lot. So you got good things for you.
Yeah. One of the biggest red flags for me in my practice in life is when people say, you know, we are just alike. I think that can be a huge red flag, because if two people in a relationship are the same, then one is unnecessary. For relationships to grow.
Hold on, you got Harlan pull up that one.
Yeah.
Say that again, let that breathe. Say that when they get
You said I had a lot of time.
Say that when they get in the mic.
If two people in a relationship are the same, then one is unnecessary. In order for growth to happen, there needs to be balance. There needs to be, I'll give you that. My husband and I are polar opposites, and you would think theoretically that would not work, but opposites really do attract. The things that
Okay, and I said that already. That's my belief that opposite does not attract. You have to have something in common with somebody for it to actually work. But she's a doctor. As we proceed, people, that's as we proceed. Don't have to agree with everything, but as we proceed.
am limited in, my husband is here, and it's right. So we help each other to grow that way. If you're looking for someone to match you and to be like you,
and that's one of the things, people, if one must have something in common. Like the total opposite, adapt myself, I say, oh, I don't see that a person total opposite of you being a perfect match. You guys have to have something in common. So maybe they're spiritually together or something like that, or they're in the same culture, right? Religion, not religion, but if it's Rastafari that they're into, then the two of them is into Rastafari. Then you can say they're opposite, but they're not really opposite. They just have differences. Then, as we proceed, people, may I learn to know.
You don't need someone to be like you. First of all, you're gonna butt heads a lot because you're gonna want this. It's not. I mean, it's fantasy land, and I think I would just appeal to women, just in alignment with what you said about not having everything together. A lot of women that I work with and talk to are looking for that perfect mate that it doesn't exist. We have to accept people first for who they are because every one of us is on the path. None of us has it all the way together. We have this laundry list of he must make this amount of money, he must do this and that. Stop it. Look for his character. Man, look for a woman's character. What is her level of integrity? Is she a ride or die? Does she have my back? Right? Because I say all the time, these are going to drop. All the stuff that you put up, it's going to fade away. And when all that fades and fails, when you're sick, who had you? Who holds you down? This is all pretty and everything, but it's all going to go away. My husband is there for me regardless. I'm there for him regardless. So stop looking for the superficial things. My husband's I think, the most ignorant question I've ever been asked in my life. I'm a psychologist, a clinical social worker, whatever. My husband was in construction. He started as a laborer and he worked his way up to a foreman. They were like, why didn't you marry a professional man? That was the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, that man has me. For things that he's not strong in, I'm strong in. So it doesn't matter. Stop looking for he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's an Indian.
So I wonder who asked that the question. Okay, so a person could ask that wanting better for her in their mind, because they're saying, why aren't you marrying a professor? Why aren't you marrying a doctor because you have the same degree as a doctor, right? But again, she says the person who holds her down, right? And that's not how it always is, though. And again, who ask them question there? And the people them who ask them question there, where them get them question there from? Because I'm saying many times people say certain things and it's not even for them idea, right? Them have that ingrained in the back of their mind, said this is how we're supposed to look at you. Until they say if we're brainwashed through our life, certain things we're gonna say like it's ours, even though it's not. The master house abundant. Our house abundant. As we proceed, people, I'm telling you, it's educational.
Not strong in, I'm strong in. So it doesn't matter. Stop looking for he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's an Indian. Stop it. You'll be alone for a long time and you're going to marry for the wrong reasons. I'm looking at that man long term. And when I wasn't working, he had me. When he was, it's like we got to help each other. You got to be helpmeets, as the word says. Stop looking for things that don't matter, because they don't.
And DeJoss,
Thank you.
thank you for that. DeJoss, for another red flag I want to ask you about, right? Incompatible life goals. I see this a lot with, like, especially if the people have two different religious beliefs, seem like an issue in the house,
Yeah.
So how important is it to have compatible life goals?
It's essential, and I think this is where we go wrong. As a man, we're called to bring vision. The woman is there to help you manifest, to give birth to that vision as that helpmate. And this is why we start with self and knowing that I'm a servant of the Almighty. When we talk about purpose, what are we talking about? What are my unique talents and skills that I can employ that's going to make the world a better place and that I can provide service? And that when I'm doing it, the time passes and I'm not even aware of time. I'm so involved into what, that's your purpose right there. You want to be in that zone. Once you find that zone, you monetize. Once you monetize and you can create income streams from that, and you may have to do other things on the side to sustain yourself while you're pursuing purpose. That's another key. But while you're doing that, now you're looking for that helpmate that's going to help you to execute that purpose as a man. As a woman, you're looking for a man that has that vision, who's on that journey, and he has receipts. He can produce receipts that he's not just in dreamland talking about this fantasy, but he's actually actively pursuing. This is what you're looking for as a female. As a man, you are looking for someone that's going to add value to your purpose, that's going to help you along your path. I'll give you a quick story. Before I was married, and my wife is here, because I'm Rastafari, I knew I was going to return to Africa to live. I bought her a plane ticket and we went on a trip to Africa. I didn't tell her at the time, but if she had said that she didn't like Africa, that would have been it. You know what I mean? She would not have made the cut, even though I love her. I love her, you know. You have to know where you're headed, and it has to be that cool and calculated sometime, because when you try to kick the can down the road,
the man said, never tell her. But that was it, people. And sometimes you have to make the decision for yourself without telling anybody that you're making this decision or this choice. Right? Well, unless you guys are together, yeah, decide to do something, and then you call upon your circle of good people and they will instruct you as we proceed.
that the vision we grow apart. And she is more passionate about some of these things than I am now, you know. So these are the things, as a man, you really have to be clear on your purpose, where you're going, and you want to find someone that's going to add value, so that when you don't like each other, because there will come times in your marriage you don't like each other, you know what I mean? But it's that higher purpose that's going to keep you on that path, that's going to keep that fire burning. And this is so important, because a lot of time romance is a lie, and it's a modern invention from the 17th century. You know what I mean? Just came into force. Marriage is not about romance. Marriage is the central way that wealth, heritage, identity, legacy is passed from generation to generation. Your family is the first government. You are a king. I don't deal with a partnership. My relationship is not a partnership. I'm a king and I seek a queen. No disrespect to the partners out there. You're dealing with your partnership. You know, tell me how it goes down the line. You know what I mean? But I'm a king, I'm governed. You know what I mean? I will hold ground. As a man, that should be your aim and objective. And you find a queen that's going to enhance your kingdom. I'm sitting right here.
Serious thing.
Yeah.
Yo, people, the people them attack from them point of view. You hear me I say? So all of the people that when not get married yet, the best thing in the dog is can learn. Big up all of the married people them out there. You hear me I say? Enough respect to honor, because as the man say, it's not a shiny objective. It's getting along, communicating, getting it done thing. As we proceed, people.
I want to touch on one more aspect. I want to ask Brother Lawrence this, right? So you see the red flags, right? But this idea that you're going to change the person from these behaviors. How does that go?
Could you play that back so they could get me uncomfortable?
You see behaviors that aren't conducive for long-term relationships. It's very consistent, and it's a part of their characteristic. But for whatever reason, you feel that you will be able to change that in that particular person. How does that usually work out?
It doesn't work out too well if you do that. But I'm going to frame it with a foundation I think will help people, because I know that there's people from different faiths, different belief systems. But there's a scripture in the book of Judges, and in scripture it talks about in the land there was no king. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. In your process of even selecting, there should be at least a foundation that you're approaching your marriage or your relationship with. Did God ordain this? If there's no dominion over, did he either prescribe it or did he allow it? Guaranteed he either allowed it for you to choose it. And the reason why I say this is because even in scripture I don't want us to identify whether or not the person we're with is right or wrong based on the trouble. Because we've seen in scripture, he's like, marry a prostitute. God has called people to marry people that will be troubled. He called Jesus to marry the church that would hang him. And marriage is a picture of the relationship between God and his people. It's a story. It's a reenactment of a play. And so I think, number one, you have to just get clear in your mind with this relationship. If you, God, I believe in my best of faith that this was my wife. Then now when I'm dealing with something that may be very, very difficult, I have some sober mind around it to say either like you're going to transform me through this difficulty, because we don't have a theology of suffering, which is why we all look for comfort, which is why we run from relationships. And so I think that's really important. I think, two, you can't change nobody. And you have to get to this point where I'm like, I've accepted this person in terms of who they are. And your ability to accept will be your ability to accept is dependent upon your ability to accept the difficulties and red flags in you. Typically, the people who are most sober-minded and make choices have a clear, or they're self-aware enough to understand that I am a red flag for even the person that I care for. I present things that is going to make that person go to the cross. The idea of this, the trouble of having a traumatized people is that sometimes you could be in a mindset that I am the victim and everybody else is out to get me. Everybody else is a risk. I present no risk.
Okay, I don't know some prevent no risk already. I do. I always got me trouble. I know some cause trouble, but there's always trouble around. So I'm not say plus obviously I'm Mr. Red, so obviously I'm gonna be a red flag. That's why I'm not saying the people don't pick up my color. So as we proceed, people.
Reality is that here's the dark thing about when people are traumatized. The victim becomes the victimizer. So, for example, even if I look at this conversation about red flags and I'm just like, all those people out there, all those people are risk, all those people hurt people, all those people cheat, all those people disrespect, and I am just here, just need to be protected. Then you're not as compassionate when you're dealing with somebody who has traits that you need to bear with. Because you don't recognize that the other person on the other side is bearing. I have so many marriage counselors. I love doing premarital. I don't like married. The reason why is because they've already gotten set in their ways, and you have to break a lot of things. But one of the biggest things I find, and sister, she'll understand this, if, for example, a sister brings her husband to marriage counseling, it's happened twice in my career among hundreds of couples. Twice in my career, when I started to lean in and also correct that sister, they end the sessions. I came here for you to fix him. I came here for you to point out how he's doing, he's not listening, he's that, but I'm also seeing how she's hurting him. He has no feelings. He should just take it. He should. And so I'm saying this to say, when you look at this question about how do I deal with somebody I know I can't change? Number one, coming with a sober mind to say, well, there are things in me that they would die to change. And so unless I'm getting a clear indication or prompting that either in marriage, either they've abused me physically, there's been adultery, from a scripture standpoint, then I could bear with this. And so I think that's the concern.
And that's what I said. No abuse. No abuse. No abuse either ways. Not by the man or by the woman. That not gonna work. No way. Anything else? As we proceed, people can work on.
That I think we're looking at marriage and looking at relationships, and we're the ones in fear, not thinking. And I think it'll help our generation if we humble ourselves and recognize that if you're in a relationship right now, whether he cries or not, or whether she cries or not, you're hurting your spouse. You hurt your spouse every day without you knowing it. The more you are self-aware about that, the more sober-minded and compassionate you are about things about them that you will never be able to change.
Thank you so much.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't change people. You cannot change people. It's either you accept people, right? And me not see that there's not more I can look on a person and say, I want to change that about you. I want to change. No. You have to change that about yourself. It's so funny. 2 weeks ago, I had that same conversation. And I'm not saying change. I'm not saying like, all I ask is sometimes some people don't have to be the way they are. That's all I'm saying. And I guess that kind of causes a issue. Yeah, people. We all have issues. As we proceed, people.
Last section we're going to talk about is the honeymoon phase when it kind of runs its course, right? Anyone can start this particular segment. How important is having effective communication? And what does effective communication look like in a marriage?
You want me to start? All right. I'll kick it off. I want to introduce you to a thing named pillow talk. How many people know what pillow talk is? It is essential for a marriage because you're working all day. When you lie down on that pillow at night, often this is when the download is able to happen. And this is very important for married people to just keep up to date with each other, what's happening. You know what I mean? Sometimes your wife drop asleep during the pillow talk. You may drop asleep. Sometimes the pillow talk escalate, you know what I mean, to some great things happen. You know what I mean? So it's well done. Yeah. You know what I mean?
People, but look, them have Instagram, them have TikTok, them have. Yo, me tell you, say, then talking thing they not go on. That's why it's so funny. Those are the things we're supposed to do, people, but those are not the things we do. I watch TV, all of them things are people. There's so much distraction, and back in the days, we didn't have so much distraction. So then we had us. Now we said TikTok got us. Instagram got us. As we proceed, people.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So the pillow talk is very crucial. And let me put it this way: just you have to find time, and for each couple, it's going to work differently. But you have to find that time. What my wife and I do as well as walks. We go for walks, exercise. While we're walking, we're downloading, we're reasoning, we're talking about ideas, we're game planning, we're life planning. And we're exercising at the same time we're moving, we're getting fresh air. Sometimes the children come, sometimes they don't. But these are key things in a marriage. And that honeymoon time will end. The oxytocin will subside. How many people know about the oxytocin?
Yes.
All of that love chemical, all of that stuff is going to subside, blessings. All of that will subside. And in Rastafari, we have something called livity, which is a way of life. You have to normalize intimacy, certain things. And for the wives, don't make your husband go too long without that something there. Please. You know what I mean? Because we have to keep it real. As a man of the cloth, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? We have to keep it real because as Africans, we don't demonize sexuality. In Babylon, sexuality became perverse. But when you look in the ancient text, what does it say? It says, be fruitful and multiply. That is a command from the Most High. So We have to normalize that within a union. And a lot of women, and I'll turn it over. A lot of women are waiting for that spark of desire before the intimacy, and that's not how it works all of the time. Sometimes you have to get into the levity, and then the desire and that spark will happen. Allow me to tell doctor. You see,
Conversation. Yeah, see, it comes back down to communication, though, people. Tell us one of our biggest thing, we not communicate, we argue, we cuss, we not reason, we not articulate ourselves. But I'm gonna tell you, say, when you hear the Italian people them talking in them language, that sounds like us, but all them talk is not how we carry out. Because our talk lead to everything worse. Communication, people. Next generation, it's so important for us to communicate. As we proceed, people.
allow me to tell doctor. You see, so you just have to normalize that intimate. And for a man, we need that intimacy regular. For women, they need that ability to sometimes listen, because sometimes as men, and I had to learn this, when your wife is downloading, she don't want a solution for every point. She just wants someone to listen and to feel seen and to feel validated. And as men, it's hard for us because we want to sell. You telling me the thing, we want to give you the solution right there, and that's
Okay. And you guys know that become myself the problem solver, yes, and that's one of the things that mommy always I say, yes, do this. This sounds good. This, and then I always get upset when I say, okay, why tell me the problem then if you don't want the solution? I am sorry. As we proceed, people, when you're in a class, you are learn.
they're needing in that moment. So as a man, we have to be empathetic to know she needs to vent, and this is the time for me to just listen. All right, so okay.
Well,
Your question had to do with communication,
Effective communication.
in a marriage. I think one of the foundations of effective communication is respect, mutual respect. You may not agree with a person, but at least have that level of respect to be able to empathize. That's also critically important. When I'm communicating, I'm not really thinking about myself. I'm thinking about the other person. I'm not coming up with my own answers while that person's speaking. I'm giving that person my full undivided attention.
Listening, people, comes down to listening. Should I call my YouTube channel listening? Because people, me tell you, said listening is so important. Enough people talk about my channel. How comes you know I do this? How comes it look? All you guys have to do is listen sometimes. And that's one of the things I say we have 2 ears, but we don't listen to understand. We just listen to reply, to respond, to cuss out, to argue. As we proceed, listen.
Yeah, it was something else I had to think about as you were talking about that, but I think the sneezes got a hold of me. But yeah, listening with empathy, being able to be wrong, not being having all the answers all the time. I think that's really huge in marriages, because I'm always thinking that I'm like my side is the only way, not looking at my husband's perspective, but just being able to listen with empathy and compassion, and you know, don't have to be right all the time. Yeah.
And I give some structure points just because of time. To your point, talking about.
Okay, and again, I'm not right all the time. I have to apologize many, many times. Right? I'm not afraid to say I apologize or I'm sorry. Because I can't say, right, when you say something wrong, right, and I correct it, you don't say sorry. Can be a one-way street. So to say you're sorry or you apologize, them things that I always say you can't be too big for those things. As we proceed, people.
Conversation with your wife. With my wife, I've learned and I've been getting guidance to say, when my wife starts to talk, I ask her, do you need to listen or do you need me to solve? At the front end. And she appreciates that because there's sometimes she needs me to solve, and I'm a natural problem solver, right? So, I ask her that, it brings her shoulders down. And so she doesn't feel like I have to say the right thing. He's just listening. And then even second to this point around communication, I don't want to, we can't understate this. A critical issue in relationship sustaining is the inability of a husband or a wife to apologize and forgive.
Big talk right there, son. And that's what I said. Like, it can't be too big not to apologize. So you're sorry. I'm telling you enough times. I have to, because I was wrong about a lot of things. As we proceed, people.
Learning how to actually apologize. It's a picture again of the gospel, of confessing and then of receiving the grace. Some people, you're so focused on being right, you do wrong. And so a picture I'll share is that for many people, so much of lifelong traumas is because of things that have happened to them. And those people that have did that thing to them never apologized. If you can understand the weight of a lack of apology in your own life, how much more should you be sensitive to the lack of apology you're giving your spouse? So I want to offer that. The last two things I'll say to this point around communication, your life is communication. And the reason you and I had, man, we had a great conversation, 3 hours, man. I love this guy, man. And we'll have a 3-hour conversation that I still worry about every week. And one of the things I talk about is you forget in the scriptures that the gospels are written accounts of disciples who spent enough time with Jesus to write about him. One of the beauties of marriage and what you communicate is you communicate your life to someone. They are potentially the best autobiographer known to man in your life. No one will know you like your spouse. And brothers and sisters know in there, they'll bring things out of you that no one else in the world can. The best autobiographer possible in your life is your spouse.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying with Martin. Okay, Marcus Garvey, when Marcus Garvey did lock up with him, they'd give him wife to go ahead to lead the party. Right? Things would have been different. I think. I'm talk about that. So with him saying this right here, that's the point that I look at to say. And then she did put together Marcus Garvey, autobiography of Marcus Garvey. So that's true right there. As we proceed, people.
The best autobiographer possible in your life is your spouse. And so communication, the idea that I just need to stay here so I could just be able to bear witness, to tell the world long after you're gone, you were here. This is how you were like. At your funeral, I say, this is what they really liked. This is the movies they really like. That's another motivation. Number one, to communicate to each other well. You need to have another story about why you need to listen. Because perhaps, maybe, just maybe, you're put in a position to be the gospel writer to that other person's life and them to you. So I think that's critical. And the last piece I'll talk about, which is marriage is made in the mundane. It's made in the mundane. Too often we may unconsciously look to marriage for our dopamine hits. Example, you may go to pray and sometimes you pray and you feel like, I felt the Spirit of the Lord over me. Sometimes you go to Sunday service and you have your hand up like that sap, you know what I mean? Like that little gift when he's like, that would have made it. And there's sometimes when you just get nothing. Your faith is supposed to flow to God. Like, am I here to get a high or am I here to connect with God, however he may show up to me? Am I here in this marriage to get a high and it's supposed to keep me happy? If you're single, people spend their entire lives trying to be happy. How do you think that relationship is going to allow you to be happy? They put that in a bottle and make you a trillionaire if you could do that. So there are times when I'm not going to feel it. But that 1 Corinthians 7 even talks about sex. It talks about the duty of sex, of husband and wife. And so I think the reality is it's like you should not work for the highs, the Sunday services of your marriage. You should work for the Monday through Saturdays of your marriage. It's not the high, it's the mundane is where you really make the magic.
All right, we're going to open it up for Q&A right now if anyone has a question. Anyone up here?
I was wondering what you think about alternative relationship models with the disproportionate amount of Black women to Black men. There seems to be a rise of, LGBTQ behavior, which further leaves women behind. So I'm thinking, I'm curious what your thoughts are about polygyny, polygamy, polyamory, or other alternative relationship models that you think are functional.
Polygamy, polygyny, and what? What can I name them there? I think so, more than one wife, I think. As we proceed, polygamy is more than one wife.
That don't leave Black women behind.
I'll look, homie. Go ahead, homie. Yeah. I have a perspective, but I think he's gonna drop it if I'm gonna offer another perspective.
All right. So first of all, if we look, whether it's biblically, whether traditional African relation, we see in Islam, men having multiple wives. One of the things I tell my brethren, because I have brethren that seek to live this life, this is a wealthy man's field of interest. Number one. So if you are not a man of great means, don't even put that on your mind. You know what I mean? Just leave that alone. That's one. And in those societies, it's a responsibility. It's not a sexual thing because you're lustful. It's really providing for all of these women. So I'm not against. In Rastafari, His Majesty was crowned with Empress Menen. So I deal with one woman, and I think for the vast majority that is the way that it should be. We do have demographic challenges, in terms of the amount of single women. Most populations are more women. So I don't lick out, or I'm not anti polygamy. A woman with multiple husbands, I've never seen it work. Because men are territorial. I think if it's happening, probably one of the husbands maybe looking the other husband.
Yeah, so they do have this lady. I think she have like a husband, two husbands, some things like that. But that are the only one I see in like society where a woman have more than one husband, and them cool with each other. As we proceed, that's the only one I've seen, people.
You have to keep that within your mind state. So, but in terms of I think right now for the rebuilding of the African nation, which is what this conference is about, we have to put everything on the table, and we have to look at what works for who. But it has to be structure. For example, in most of these polygamous societies, the first wife is the one that selects the second wife. It's not you show up with the next woman after you've had sex with her a few times. And so,
Okay. I didn't know that either. I never know saw the queen lady have to bring in the other woman them. Wow. Okay. So people, you learn something every day, As we proceed, I think say you just go out there and get 10 wife, like you just choose 10 women and all 10 women agree if you live with you. Or how much woman? King Solomon did have how much? Wives. Him never have like harem. I think him did have just wives. As we proceed, people.
a new wife, which is what happens a lot of time in America and other places. And I know because I deal with this issue. So I would say that it's not off the table, but to your point, For most, the vast majority of men, especially in our current economic situation, and if the money's funny, no relationship is going to work, my brother. I've seen it. I don't think it works. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll offer a communal point. Personally, I think for me, my conviction is that one man, one woman, because of the singularity of one God, and for me, that's a conviction out of that. But what I will say is that I do think that there's a need that you're pointing out that is not going to be met. As I said, I focused 10 years of my life, or even more than that, a career, just dealing with the issue of loneliness in the digital age. You know, Facebook was started by my classmate. That was on my campus. And so I saw the world fundamentally change from navigating things in person to everything being navigated digitally in your most important relationship building years. This next 10 years is something the world has never seen. Meaning that your family was your triage of life. Your significant other is your triage of life. And so you have a lot more brothers and sisters, but particularly our sisters, going into 40s, 50s by themselves. There's a reason why churches care for the fatherless and the widows. And so what was supposed to happen, what our institution is supposed to be, if I didn't have a brother at the church, I had a brother. If I didn't have an uncle, if I didn't have a mother at my institution of faith, I could find that because the communal, I grew up, I was the son of Nigerian immigrants, but I have a lot of auntie and uncles where I cannot map them on the truth. They're just my parents.
Okay, and that's one of the things, it can always come back to the unity of us from beginning, right? We were a unity. We did go against anything and everything and win. And you see, the church used to play a major part in the sense that it used to be part of the community. That's why I say now when the church is only open up on Sundays, right through the week, them supposed to be in the community. And the people them supposed to have petition the church for have enough people to go out in the community and talk to the people them. So I know, like said, the preacher them are gonna do it willingly. The people them have to ask the preacher them to do them things here, and the church member them. As we proceed, people.
Nigerian immigrants, but I have a lot of auntie and uncles where I cannot map them on the truth. They're just my parents' friends. And so the reality is that in order for people to do life well, they have to do life with other people. And we as a society have to recognize there's going to be a lot of fatherless, there's a lot of widows, there's a lot of sisters who will not have covering and will not be in relationship. So how do we show up to create a community that doesn't assume that they got that, right? And so I think we have to reimagine all of that. But I think to his point, I affirm the point of like, I do think that's a rich man's game. But and number two, I do think that, but I don't think longer term, I think for us, I don't think that'll be healthy, but we can go from there.
And even in today's society, the people are make some robot nowadays where they must have, I see them show something with robot people. I tell them, say, no, them just a cut out, then keep on a cut out. They put in something in between humanity at all times, right through history. There's always a divide. That's why I'm looking at the present, the past, present, and future, and just looking at these stuff and seeing these stuff. And people say it doesn't matter. That's the thing. People look on it and say, oh, that's the past. It doesn't matter, but it does matter. It's so important for we understand this thing. And also we're actually supposed to argue about it. As we proceed, people.
But we can go from there.
Have you grappled with the idea to become more African, to go to Africa and beyond a lot of these ideas that have been presented to us as colonized people? In order to become Africans, I'd like to hear your opinions on this, all four of you. What do you think about decolonizing the idea of relationships? What do you think about going deep into the foundations, going back to the principles of Ma'at, going back to Osset and Osir, who are the most ancient people and who all the Christian stories have been adopted from? So how can we become more African and more whole by returning to Sankofa, to returning to our source?
First of all, I recently purchased land in Ghana, so I'm in this process actively. And for those who have not...
Oh yeah, big up my family in Ghana right now. Go and enjoy. Hopefully one day we can visit for real people. I'm telling you, them things are just it's so interesting. It's so invigorating. We got Ghana. Mother love that. The funny thing I fill out a paper today and on the paper it say everything except Africans. How comes African like it not really depend, you know? Them ask you why all kind of different race except African race. As we proceed, people.
This process actively. And for those who have not been to Africa, I say every Black person needs to touch their feet on African soil. I don't think you can be a whole African without returning to the motherland.
Oh Lord, go and beat me. Yes. Go and beat me. Just because I say I never got. But it's not like so I say no, I want to go. I say I want to go. I'd like to go, but we need to sell more sauce. No, for real, we need to sell more sauce. Buy a sauce. As we proceed, people.
Having that connection, being in that space. Marcus Garvey knew what he was talking about when he said Africa for the Africans and those at home and abroad. So to that point, I would say, but remember, we have to remember, and when you go to Africa, you will see this. Africa is a diverse place. It's not one or two deities or faiths or cultures or kingdoms. You know, it's a cornucopia. It's the foundation of all humanity, and this is within one country. You know, we're not even going country to country. So when we say it become more African, it's so vast. A lot of people would think that Christianity is not African. Christianity starts in Africa. Judaism starts in Africa. Where's Moses from? You know what I mean? Who was Abraham when you talk about the Chaldeans? Who were the Chaldeans? This was a Cushite civilization, Mesopotamia. Nimrod was the son of Cush. So when we're talking about all of this conceptualization in terms of Africa, Nile Valley civilization, it's so vast. But to your point, though, I would recommend everyone to make that pilgrimage.
Yeah.
I would recommend everyone to take their significant other there. I would recommend us to invest there. One very quick thing before there's a global war, World War III Armageddon that is unfolding before us now. You're gonna need companionship. Some hard times are coming. We're gonna see a collapse of global shipping, all of these things. And to me, the safest place we can be during this next, and I think it's gonna be a long, hard, terrible war. The safest place to me, and this is influenced by my Rastafari faith, is the continent. The stone that the builder refused shall become the head corner.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be in a place where there's a lot of agriculture, where you can get close to the land. When
I don't know, me love plant already. Ooh wee. I don't mean that thing. Yo, honestly, people, I was actually no. Sometimes just I run through my head since I got through the whole thing. I'm tell you, say it's blue year, and it's for us to reflect on really where we come from and where we are going for real, you know. I'm saying I just highlight them great people for the month, but all of these information is just coming up and I just more sharing, right? It's yellow month. It's us to share the good stuff. Them. I'm tell you, say, leaving my space right now. When I come off of my life, I click on any network or anything. You're gonna see like pure confusion, pure this, pure that. There's no calm. There's nothing where can just make your mind at ease. So this is why I'm saying time I come from my life. I'm gonna talk about them things here, find these great people and stuff like that. I really enjoy myself because guess what? When I go other places, it's not like that. Most places not stay so. If you not mix up and talk bad and all of them stuff there, nobody not interested. That's why I say I make my own interest. I'm finding my own interest, creating my own content with the things that we're supposed to be share with other people. And people supposed to find within themselves, pick up a pencil and pick up a book and write in it. Major worries. Right? As we proceed, people.
agriculture, where you can get close to the land when the grocery store is empty. America is very difficult to live outside of the system. You got to return to source. So I would recommend everyone in this time in particular, start to make that connection, start to reach out to your African friends, reach out to people on the ground, reconnect, because remember, our ancestors were torn from this land. They were not given anything of this treasure that we were torn from, and our DNA resonates. The first time I touched foot on the African continent, I felt it in my DNA. I'll stay right there.
And I tell you, same time I land off, jump off of the plane at Jamaica, I swear I saw my feel. So just imagine the time I got Africa. Because I tell you, say, you leave, which part you forward from, and you live in one place, so you have to adjust. Everywhere you go, you have to make an adjustment, you know. You see the people that don't make an adjustment, then don't last too long, right? That's the honest truth. So everywhere we go, we always have to make an adjustment. We always have to make an adjustment. And that's pretty much with existence, you know. That's why I say some people have enough money, right? When they can just escape. The money make them escape, right? But if them go out there and nobody don't know who them is, them get the same treatment. So I go to Jamaica and see like pure bus driver, black bus driver, I see all everybody is like them not understand how great that is, you know. They don't understand say them in of them own country being the best of themselves, right? With nobody telling them they can't do this. So this woman said there's so much things them accept because first of all, I tell them said paperwork, right? Enough of the time all them people create them policies and stuff with paperwork. So one of the key things we have to pay attention to is paperwork and how we use it for reform certain things. So if the people them want come to Jamaica and buy up all the place them supposed to have reforms so then this can't happen. But I'm gonna say when nobody's held accountable for anything, and we not hold ourselves accountable for many things. As we proceed, people, that may say we see on one and the greatness of us, and then on the other and you see the destructive ways of us. As we proceed, people.
Yeah, thank you for that, sister. It's very profound. Um, yeah, I love Africa. I love Africa. I've been in a lot of different African countries. Senegal, by the way, is my favorite. Je parle français. J'aime bien le Sénégal. There's a Haitian man and his house. Yeah, we were speaking parlant French space. Okay, yeah. But more seriously, though, Africa is right a continent. It's not a country. When I first touched foot in Africa, there's something that I could not describe. It's something. It's a feeling that you know you're from there. You know where you're from. I also recommend that people go home.
Stop it, lady.
But I must say that with a caveat. The Africa I visited in the mid 90s is not the Africa of today. Unfortunately, it has become so Western. It's very sad. So if you go to Africa, when you go to Africa, you have to go to the more rural areas because a lot of the big cities, I know the Asians, no disrespect, have they're building infrastructure, and I didn't even recognize when I was in Ghana. I'll just try to be very respectful, but it was way more Western than Baltimore where I live. I had to go to Kumasi 5 hours away to find any element of culture. No one was in garb. I mean, with the weaves and the wigs and it was disheartening.
It was disheartening. It was disheartening. The culture. I have to go so far away to find our culture. It's so westernized. It's so westernized. It's the people. It's the people. It's always come down to the people. Where the people them accept and reject. When I say them always all of the great heroes them get rejected, them have to leave go somewhere else, become famous, and then the people them say, by the way, he's Jamaican. We love him. So it's the people. It's the people. They give up on the culture all the time. And giving up on the culture shows that they give up on themselves all the time. I tell you, say, when Jamaica used to be great, it was when we little bit and see how people used to be united. How we used to have so much food. I never heard about hunger when we little bit. We have fruit tree. We have one of the things we grew up in. We never chop down fruit tree. We never any. It's like a sin to chop down fruit tree. No me here say no true story. Yesterday, me I listened to one of them show, and the man said the man a chop down the ackee and the ackee tree. Me really shake me head. Me say, look on it. Nobody now protect the ackee tree. The ackee tree have to protect himself, ourself. I mean, seriously, people. These are the rules we say we did have those things in abundance. Our real, genuine liberty, community. It was amazing. This is why I same time I go back and listen to these people in the past and how them did live them life tough and hard and but solid people. I love it. Can't wait for them things that forward again, people. As we proceed.
I mean, with the weaves and the wigs and that, it was disheartening. So I'm calling to go back to, and you say go back to Africa. You need to go beyond Africa. It's changing. I'm gonna leave it right there, so I won't be like pejorative or say anything. But my heart is sad, and that's why Senegal still has some element of, everyday people walking around. You can feel it. The pulse is still there. But some countries just be mindful. But thank you for that. I love your question.
I also appreciate the spirit of your question. I had a unique relationship with the continent, because I was born in Brooklyn, New York, in Flatbush, Brooklyn in the 80s. My older sister was born in
Flatbush. One time I did go to New York and then bring me to Flatbush. Once. Many years ago. That's the only time I've been to New York. I would proceed, people.
My parents came in 79. So you kind of feel like you're in this liminal space. It's like I'm not American enough and I'm not Nigerian enough because I can't speak the language. I just know when I'm in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Go from what? He's talking about school, right? Like people understand that dynamic, right? So you're in this in between, but I do think that there's things that we could borrow in the spirit, right? Because I think similarly, from my theology, I understand that Christianity came from Africa origin. Most of the theologians that we quote here were African theologians. But two is even the spirit of some of the distinctions between the West, how communal we are, how intergenerational minded our people are. When you talk about the descendants, you hear that a lot. Now things become cool. Like my ancestors and my own that. You don't want to call all your ancestors, but let's talk about that. But I do think this notion that I think is quite African, but quite biblical, which is that the projects and the things that God puts in your life, you won't get to enjoy all of them in your lifetime. You may be the bridge that makes it easier and makes it easier for your children's children to now connect the whole family tree.
Yes. Here I am, people, doing my little part, people. Because this is so amazing. We tell us that journey I went upon to. It's so amazing because this is what we're supposed to do, people. I listen to them story and I share them story. I'm tell you one time we used to sit down as kid and we used to talk about Brother Nancy and Tukuma, and we used to the old people them was ours. Them have so much knowledge. So when them attack, they say them have issues with the old people and young people. May I say, where did this come in? How can we hate the people them will have the knowledge? How comes them feelings we have them feelings towards our next? It's just weird how them things are just creepy in our culture, right? So we never respect the knowledge of these great people. That's why I start explore them things here now because I just find it. How comes everything is so separated? and convoluted, all in a different sense. We have so much great people. We do. As we proceed, people.
For your children's children to now connect the whole family tree. The picture of Moses was not one that he made it to the promised land. He was looking at it, but he was faithful to his assignment. This notion of the rest is that it's about me, my fulfillment, my call, my dreams, my this, my that, and that is not African. It's us, our Father, not my Father who is in heaven. So, if anything, if you don't return there physically, though I implore you, I plead with you to go back home. You'll be welcome. I would appreciate and would pray that you go back home here, that you start to think about even the project of going back home. I may not be able to connect with a relative. I may not be able to experience it, but I'm going to be the first in our family because that's going to create a bridge that my children will walk over. That's African. That's, I think, a place that everybody in this room can start.
Yes, that sounds like one Jack might best because I'm telling you, so the minus sign for my sauce is the bridge. The old knowledge and the new knowledge. And make it better for the next generation.
We really give thanks for Lawrence, Dr. Kwasi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mike drop, big up the channel. I'm tell you, say this man always have some solid people for reasoning. The topic them we talk, what we're supposed to talk about sometimes, I'm tell you, say it's like we are afraid that the topic is that's so important to us. And then other people out there study us and I make one bag of money off of we. Right? I talk to my nephew about that. Or a person can study us and talk about us more than how anybody in a fluid culture can talk about us. That's why I say all of them things I may create them, may write down all of these stuff. So just in case, I mean not just in case, but when it comes down for writing a book, the information is there. I can always drop on any video, go through any month and find out about anybody when we did a highlight. All of these things, what we're supposed to be doing. Because it's so important to us. Now me understand why it's so important to us. Because then people deserve them own highlight when they couldn't have been highlighted. Which means all of the credit where they're supposed to get, they never get it. That's why I'm saying they do and do start the invention. But me look up for the information on the first person where invented the stoplight. He also invented the gas mask, but there's not really a lot of information on him. Like only short clips, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And them two things they're so important. Imagine that, eh? People. We love the fact that these things are eye-opening, they're amazing, right? And all of the facts are right there. It's not like say them things here are make-up stuff and stuff like that. This is our story. These amazing people, they're really amazing for true. I admire what me say. These people, my admiration for enough of them when I learn about. Right? You see? Me they I learn about great people and people out the road are going with people out the road are going with the worst things. And that might try to show you you can find yourself in greatness or you can find yourself in worseness. And people may find myself in greatness. These people are so amazing. Man has respect to each and every one of them. To all of the amazing ladies were born this month and man were born this month and never get them birthday highlighted. Enough love and respect to all of honor. I miss out on the one them we living, but the one them we never get for them flowers. Shout out a yellow roses for them. People. So I say, if great people did live before we, right? and them create we. So we're not great people too. So what's stopping us from admitting that and living that? Our greatness can't done enough. It cannot. So people might go continue highlight them people because them people, I love them people so much. Just the fact that I can sit down in one classroom and listen and learn and participate. One more than that you want. Oh, no, the mix up where everybody disrespect each other. And but me say once that done, you know, I have to move on to something else more despicable. For the enjoyment continue. Me now can come over here so I listen to something uplifting, positive, and how to fix things, how to make things better. As we proceed, people, thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm out.